All right, Austin, we are finally live following the Eagles' 32-6 win here in week one of the season. Give me 1 second here to fix one thing. All right, had an echo on my part, but we're back. Austin, like I said, Eagles won 32-6, a complete domination of the Atlanta Falcons here in week one of the season. We're going to get into everything really about this game, but first, what is your general feelings after this big win here to start the season?
Yeah, the start of the season, I thought it was a great showing, especially by Sirianni and that offense. I mean, the first couple plays, I loved it. A screen to Quez, and then immediately, what does he do? Same exact play, but the other way. And then I know he did get away from the run a little bit, but I mean, just as a whole, I thought the offense looked pretty good. I know there was a couple things, like they could have cleaned up, like the penalties, but overall, I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, I was. I mean, like you said, outside of penalties, really, it was a pretty clean win for the Eagles. It wasn't perfect. Not many turnovers. I mean, did they have any turnovers today? I don't think so. So they didn't have any turnovers. The penalties was an issue. I thought the play calling was solid on both sides of the ball, and I mean, for a team that wasn't expected to do much by the national media coming into the season, this was a nice win to start the season, to say the least.
Yeah, I know the over under was like 58 or something. It was
Yep.
actually pretty high, and I mean from the get go, you kind of saw that this game, whether it's because both teams are just not that good or because they were just evenly matched, it was gonna be the under. But I thought for Sirianni for a first game, I thought he did a fantastic job.
Absolutely did a fantastic job, in my opinion. I guess, do you want to start by just going through this in terms of quarter by quarter and
Yeah,
go
yeah.
how
Let's
we
go quarter
felt
by
throughout the
quarter.
game? All right, how about
Yep.
you start while I add some of the scores here to
Sure.
our bottom scroll.
So to open the game, I mean the Eagles. They started off on defense, and I think they did struggle. They struggled quite a bit, especially probably until about the halfway through the third quarter with the run defense. I know we saw that probably in the preseason. I don't know if I'm concerned about it or not, but to say the least, we couldn't really stop Mike Davis or Cordero Patterson on that initial drive, but I believe they only got a field goal out of it. They struggled to tackle, but I mean the red zone defense, they did hold them to a field goal to start that first quarter. What do you think of the defense?
Defense, that first drive, really first two drives, I was a little worried. They were getting kind of bullied there, but bend don't break those first two drives. But after those first two drives, I mean, that was the defense was spectacular. They shut down that Atlanta passing game. Matt Ryan had I I don't think he wasn't terribly not accurate, but he just was inefficient and. I thought they did a great job. Davis early on was a little bit of a tough one to bring down, but they really figured out a way to bring or stop him later in the game as well. So I thought the defense early on shaky, but felt good by really midway through the second quarter about them.
Yeah, I mean the good news, Dylan, was I mean early on in that game we did see that we did have a little bet slash fantasy podcast go up, and you did see that Mike Davis was gonna hit the over on the yards almost right away. So that was a nice thing to see. But then going on to the offense in the first quarter, we did move the ball pretty well. I mean, we got Quez, like I mentioned, on two quick screens. Miles had, I think it was like one carry or two for 5 yards. And then to cap it off, you had a absolutely beautiful move by Devonta Smith to cut inside and then go back outside. And all Jalen had to do is put it in the right spot, and he did. I did. I didn't do it. Unfortunately, I did not do it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was a beautiful ball, and I mean that kind of set the tone for not only the game but just how the Eagles' offense was going to go. I mean, you saw about in the moving on to like the second quarter, they threw it to him four more times, and there he ended up actually having a decent first half. I believe he had four for 60 and a touchdown. I mean, you'll gladly take that for a just overall stat line, and he ended up having that in the first half.
Yeah, I think I actually had myself muted there on our streaming thing, so they missed my whole thing there on the defense and Smith. But basically, what I was saying there was Smith, great way for the Eagles to start the season, great way for Smith to start his career. And then defense, after those first two drives, you really felt good about the defense. Yeah, the defense was a little shaky the first two drives, had a hard time stopping Smith, but I think they, or sorry, Davis, but I thought the defense really settled in, and by the second quarter, you felt good about it. And then what was the last thing you talked about there?
Just that Devonta Smith, I mean, had at the end of the first half, he had about 60 yards and a touchdown,
Yeah.
and you'd kind of take that at in general just as a stat line. But going back off on your point about the defense, I mean, I was fully prepared for them to just keep firing it to Kyle Pitts over the middle,
Yeah.
and I mean they tried it probably two to three times, and then they just kind of went away from it.
Yeah, they really did. We both talked this week about how we thought Kyle Pitts was going to be a big part of this Falcons offense this week because the Eagles in the past have really struggled with the tight end, especially last year. But Kyle Pitts was nowhere to be found in this entire game, and really, I mean, he had what? How many receptions did he finish with? Two or three?
Yeah, he. I mean, by the end, by the third quarter, I did look at my dad and said, "Where's Kyle? Like, where's Kyle Pitts?"
Yeah,
You just didn't see him.
I'm looking at it now. Kyle Pitts finished 4 for 31, so 4 receptions. But I mean, none of those receptions felt big, and I think about 18 or 20 of those yards came on that one reception on a long third down. So, I mean, I'm not going to take a ton away from week one just because there's plenty of football to be played. Now you got things on tape. That's the other thing about the Eagles is because of the preseason, there was really nothing on tape about the Eagles' offense or defense. Now they put something on tape. We'll see how
Sure.
they
Yeah.
how they go going forward. But definitely,
I
go
I
ahead.
will say though, Calvin Ridley, I thought he was going to torch us. I mean, it's Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
He's going to get his. He had 5 for 51.
Yeah, and a lot, and I think a good portion of that yardage came on the first series of the game for the Falcons. He had two receptions or so on that drive for at least 20 or 30 yards, and then after that, they really did a good job of shutting him down the rest of the game.
Yeah, and you got to give Darius Slay was under a lot of pressure last year. Being the basically the only corner that we had,
Yeah,
and he had a tough task today going against Calvin Ridley. And you even saw at the end of the towards the end of the game, like once the defense got that stop at the end of the first half, which I think was huge. They got that confidence, they got the
yeah,
swagger, and especially at the end of the game, I mean Darius Slay on third down, Calvin Ridley goes to the first down marker and kind of just plants there to just gain a first down, and who's there to stop it? Darius Slay.
hmm,
And even going to Steven Nelson in the first half, I thought he almost picked one. In the red zone, they threw it to, I believe it was either Hayden Hurst or Mike Davis. And I mean, he was there immediately.
yeah. I'm thoroughly impressed with how that secondary defense played today. I wasn't expecting them to give up 30 points, but they they surpassed all expectations, especially that secondary against a tough Atlanta offense when it comes to passing the ball. But Slay leading the pack, and Steven Nelson looked great too. Uh, Nelson may have had a better game than Slay in my mind. Slay had, I think, two or three missed tackles there, But
Yeah.
Nelson looked really solid, and Avonte Maddox looked solid too. He led the team with 9 total tackles, I think 6 solo, and had a tackle for a loss as well. It's not going to be that easy for them every week, but if they can continue playing even at a portion of that level that they played today, it's going to be a good season for the Eagles defense.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, Steven Nelson did have an way easier task in guarding Russell Gage, but you did bring up a good point with Avante. I mean, Avante had 9 tackles, and most likely I didn't notice if they moved Steven Nelson onto Kyle Pitts if Kyle Pitts was lined up in the slot, but you can only assume that Avante was tasked with putting up with Kyle Pitts, and obviously he did a pretty good job sticking him. Um, the Falcons did dictate the clock a lot of the time in this game, though. I
It
mean,
did
at
feel
one
like that.
point, yeah, at one point in this game, it was, I believe, 15 minutes to 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
I believe that in the first quarter, the Eagles had one offensive drive, maybe two,
Hmm.
not even. And part of that was the Eagles couldn't stop the run. Like I kind of mentioned to open it up, they did. In the preseason, it was a little scary. I didn't think too much of it. And then also the penalties did. It felt like every time the Eagles started to gain momentum, they false started or. I mean, Raekwon Williams at one point had 2 holding penalties
Yeah.
for Hassan Ridgeway.
Yeah, Hassan
So
Ridgeway, that I think second series of the game had 2 holding penalties, or in the first quarter of the game had 2 holding penalties, which killed a little bit of the Eagles at times. But I mean, uh, I think the most impressive thing about the defense just overall was that those first 2 drives, yeah, they struggled, but and this is a credit to Gannon and the entire defense staff. They they went out there and they made changes and implemented those changes, and it really worked well. I mean, it's been a long time since we've seen the Eagles make that adjustments like that end up working and benefiting them, and they made those adjustments early on when they noticed that they were getting beat consistently, and it was impressive, especially because this coaching staff is a young coaching staff and is a little bit of an inexperienced coaching staff. Likewise with the Falcons, but I mean, I was impressed just by the coaching staff's overall coaching today,
adaptability, yeah,
adaptability, and
and
yeah,
that was my biggest thing going into the second half. I was kind of wondering, like I mentioned, they went very pass heavy to start the game,
yeah,
and I don't know if that was game plan or maybe Sirianni, kind of like how Doug used to get kind of lost and away from the run.
yeah, yeah.
But
And
I mean, you didn't see Miles in the first half. Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say first half that was an unbalanced offense. It was at one point, I don't know what it finished at, in when we came towards uh, halftime. Here, let me see if I can find it actually. Uh, Hopefully,
I
my,
mean, Miles very well could have had 4 carries.
here we go. I got the first half offense stats right here. Give me 1 second. First half offense, the Eagles threw the ball 24 times, ran the ball 10 times. Miles had just 4 carries in that first half.
Right.
So, I mean, it was unbalanced to start the game, without a doubt. But the Eagles finished with 31 carries, Sanders 15, and 35 passing attempts. So, I mean, they started off balanced. But
Wait,
in
Dylan, how many carries did Miles have?
ended with 15. Right?
So he's allowed. So he's allowed to have more than 8.
He is allowed more than 8.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and we said that he should be in that 15, 20 carry range at least every week, if not pushing 20, 25 carries. And what we saw that Eagles offense this week was in the first half they went pass heavy, which they were taking was the way to go. That Falcons offense couldn't stop the pass at all. And in the second half, when they had the lead, they ran the ball to kill the clock and keep their defense off the field. Because over the last few years, one of the biggest issues was the defense was on the field way too much and getting tired early. And because of that second half offense where they just ran the ball a ton, they actually won the time of possession 31-03 to 28-57.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think part of me kind of wishes they stayed aggressive in
I would
throwing
have
the
liked to
ball
see that.
because it almost kind of felt like they took their foot off the gas in the second half. And yes, I love that they ran the ball because clearly I think Sirianni noticed that they didn't run the ball in the first half. He kind of wanted to balance it more, but it almost went a little too run heavy at times. And I do think he kind of used the screen game in the first half as a substitute for the
Yep.
running game in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely did. But it was also working to a point. Quez got some nice yardage on a couple screen passes, I think all in the first series of the game. He didn't see much action after that, but they used the screen pass as well, and it was effective. It's not going to work every week, but they knew what Atlanta's weaknesses were, and they knew what they wanted to do in this game to get Atlanta off balance defensively, and it worked well. It worked well.
Yeah, and it's funny because last year and the year before, Doug tried a lot of screen passes and it didn't really work.
No, yeah.
Most of the time it felt as though the team kind of knew they were going to throw a screen pass. And there was a prime example today that I absolutely loved. The Eagles, it was in the second half, the Eagles ran. And then the one play, and I believe it was it might have been the Jalen Rager touchdown.
Hmm.
He held it into Miles' gut for probably a second and then slinged it to Jalen Rager. And I believe that is what turned into the touchdown to Jalen Rager. And I mean, that's a beautiful play call.
Oh, it was
You know,
it was gorgeous.
I mean, they totally committed to the run. And next thing you know, it's a touchdown. So,
Yeah,
like last year with Doug, I don't think you see something like that. And I'm shocked, honestly, how many screens we did run.
yeah, they definitely ran a ton of screens in this game, which I guess wasn't too shocking, but it was definitely not what I was also expecting. But like I said before, it was effective when they did use it, and that's all you can ask for. Especially because, like you said, in the past under Doug, we would run a lot of screenplays, but they would get swat up at the line, and they would go for nothing. Um, yeah,
Yeah, my other just big takeaway was just, I mean, the tackling was kind of piss poor to say the least. If
especially to start off. I think it got better as the game went on, but it started off very
Yeah,
poor.
there were still times where in the second half where you kind of thought, oh my god, this guy needs to get tackled, and a guy would dive at him and he would miss.
Yeah,
Part of it could be just training camp and they're not.
these guys
I
didn't
know
get
they
any
didn't
game
tackle
action.
exactly. So I think that is part of it. It is a little concerning because I mean we've dealt with this for the last how many years.
Yeah.
But I bet if you looked around the league, you did probably see a lot of missed tackles. It's not just an Eagles problem. But the only other thing really I noticed in the second half was Devonta Smith had he had the 5 catches in the first half. He had 1 catch in the second half.
Yeah, and yeah, you would have liked to see him be more involved throughout the game, but maybe part of that was, and I'll have to go back and watch the game closer. But perhaps some of that was that he was just being covered a little bit tighter in that second half, becoming the more focus of the Atlanta secondary. But at the same time, the Eagles were getting plenty of people open throughout that offense, and that's a credit to Sirianni and the offensive staff for drawing up good play designs and strong routes for these guys to run, because there's guys getting open quite consistently today. I don't know if that was all because of play design, but no matter how you chalk it up, while you'd like to see Smith get more opportunities, it's only week one, and I mean, if other guys are getting open, they're going to get their fair share of opportunities. I liked how Jalen spread the ball around today. It's good to get all these guys involved early.
Yeah, and ironically, what his over under was 240 yards.
Yeah,
He was about, I think you and I on our last podcast, the one of about the bets and fantasy, I said around the 275 mark is where I thought would be a closer line, and he did hit 264.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's probably one or two passes away from that. But the other thing I did notice and I really enjoyed was he didn't look to run.
No, no. I mean, and this is, and I said it this week in our preview that with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, it felt like Jalen must have been making a lot of progression in his development this offseason for how confident that team has felt about Jalen this offseason heading into the season. And he showed, I think, he showed that he's already made a lot of development. And last year, he was a guy, like you said, who would take off quickly when plays were breaking down. But, I mean, he only left the pocket on a handful of plays today during design passes. And he let the
And it
play.
was effective.
He was effective when doing so. I think he only took one sack in the game. And the only other negative play that stands out on the top of my head, which wasn't his fault, in which he had to run a little bit, was that 4th and 1, I think, where he was it was some type of pass play, but one of the Falcons defensive linemen got right through the offensive line immediately, and he had to roll all the way to the sideline and just chuck it up because he was going to run out. But that wasn't really his fault. But he was effective when he did run, but he showed a lot of development in terms of staying in the pocket, letting the play develop, finding his man, and just just feeling the pressure. I mean, only one sack today.
Yeah, and that's a lot of, you saw it with Carson last year where he tried to do what Jalen was doing is extend the play, but
Yeah,
then he would take the sack. And the big thing I noticed, and it's such a simple thing, was Jalen threw the ball away.
yeah,
I liked number one that he kept his eyes downfield, but he threw it away, and
did
that's all you can ask.
I was just about to say the biggest thing I liked out of Hurts today, and my roommate is a Colts fan, so we had the Colts game up on his computer, so I was watching the Colts game, and I gotta say Carson played well today.
Okay.
He had one fumble, it was under center, fumbled the snap, but he had actually two fumbles because he did that stupid thing where he dives forward, and when he hits
Uh-huh.
the ground, he fumbles.
Uh-huh.
But no, but one thing we saw of Carson a lot in the past was hero ball. He would force
Yeah.
plays, force passes. I can't remember one play in this game where I thought that Jalen was forcing a pass necessarily that he shouldn't be making.
Yeah,
He,
I think the only one I remember was he dropped back. There was pressure. The defensive lineman, like, he evaded him, and the defensive lineman was behind him, and he stepped up, and that I think he got sacked, and he might have fumbled there,
yeah,
but we recovered it, and
he
that's one of those I kind of wish he either threw away or just took off, but
yeah. I mean I'm pulling up the lost my phone completely. There we go. He did end up with I think two fumbles today, Hurts, but both were recovered by the Eagles. But that's the biggest thing about this game was the Eagles didn't turn the ball over. They didn't give Atlanta any additional drives, and I think that it probably wouldn't have played a big part in the game, seeing how the Eagles dominated. But it's just a good omen for the future if they could not turn the ball over.
yeah, and I think for the most part they did a good job protecting Jalen as well. I
He
know
did
there were a couple plays.
just one sack.
Um, Go ahead.
No, just one sack given up.
Oh, one sack. Yeah, just one sack. I mean, I think it's probably like twice where he left the pocket maybe a tiny bit early. Lane Johnson did kind of struggle with penalties today. I was kind of shocked by
Yeah.
that. I was expecting Diller or Mailata to have more of an issue with that.
The whole team struggled with penalties though. So, but that's what's going to happen when these guys don't play in any preseason games. And the Falcons pulled the same thing in preseason, from what I heard. So I mean, it was sloppy in the penalty department today, and it's the first real time snaps these guys are getting in almost 9 months or 8 months. Um, but Johnson did struggle a little bit. He negated a touchdown there before the touchdown to Goddard. Uh, he negated what was a Gainwell touchdown.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah,
Gainwell's touchdown. Which ironically Gainwell got his touchdown back
yeah,
anyway.
Gainwell got it, and I enjoyed seeing Gainwell be already an effective part of this offense. A lot of times you won't see a rookie running back be that big part of an offense in just week one. But they weren't afraid to put him out there in key situations because they were putting him out there a lot when they were in the red zone, and that's big to see. So perhaps Gainwell is going to be your inside the red zone type back, and you're going to have Sanders as your in between
That
the
hurts.
20s.
That hurts me, by the way, as a Miles Sanders fantasy owner.
As am I.
That really, that really hurts me.
It would suck for those touchdowns, yes, but and I think you need Sanders in the red zone to a portion because there's another fourth down there. They were over 2 on fourth down. That's the biggest negative on offense. They was
Oh, yeah.
when they ran the
No,
ball with Gainwell on fourth down.
I was wondering the same thing. Number one, I think Jalen should have kept it on that
Yes,
one.
yes,
I think to me, it looked like there was nothing for Gainwell to
or at
go to.
least if you're gonna run that play where it's an option like that, I would rather have the bigger back and Sanders there.
Hmm.
Or
Yeah,
that's
that
why
was.
you have a back like Jordan Howard somewhere on the roster.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of thinking Miles should have been in there, and I mean they probably would have assumed Miles is getting the ball anyway
Yeah,
if you put Miles in there. So then
absolutely.
Jalen could have kept it. So it would have been nice to see Jalen take that. And you do bring up a great point with Gainwell because I totally forgot to even bring him up. Um, I thought it was interesting that number one, Sirianni didn't really do any Miles and Gainwell on the field at the same time,
Yeah, we did
and
not see any of
also
that.
Gainwell when the 2 minute warning hit, the rest of that drive was Gainwell,
Yeah,
and
because
Miles had a couple catches. Miles didn't drop a ball, I don't think.
Miles had a really good game after being quiet in that first half. Miles came out in that second half, and he was the kind of a man on a mission there. He had a really good game, finished with a really nice stat line, 15 carries and 74 yards. I know he didn't get a touchdown, but you'll take that. And Gainwell, I think Gainwell didn't have as much success on the ground here. I'm pulling it up here. Um, yeah, game. I have the uh, the stat wrong on the bottom here, but Gainwell had 9 carries for 37 yards, which you'll
Okay.
take. But yeah, Sanders almost averaged 5 yards a carry, and then he added 4 receptions for 39 yards on 5 targets.
Yeah, I mean, especially a first game for a rookie like that. I mean, you didn't even see Boston Scott.
No, no Boston Scott today, which I like Boston Scott, but Boston Scott shouldn't be on the field as much as he was last year. And Gainwell had 2 receptions for 6 yards today.
Okay. Yeah, I would have liked to see Gainwell have probably 3 or 4 catches. I think he dropped one, but it was
Yeah,
kind of behind him.
yeah,
Um, but
and
I thought Gainwell had a great. I think the offense as a whole had a pretty solid game.
yeah, the offensive line started a little slow, but I mean they really caught on early. And there's nobody on that line today that I looked at. I'm like, wow, they were a weakness. Mailata looked good, Kelsey looked good, Brooks looked good, Johnson looked good. Um, who who am I blanking on?
Um, oh, how can we forget the Travis or the Jason Kelsey block on the Miles Sanders screen?
Yes.
Oh my God! Not only did he pancake the one, but then he immediately went and took on the next
Yeah, that
guy.
was a beautiful block. He's always been a tremendous down the field blocker, and
Uh,
that was just beautiful by him today. And I want to give credit where credit is due. He had a quiet game for what most would consider a quiet game until the end there, but Jalen Rager was solid today in his role.
yeah, my brother was kind of making a joke while we were watching the game because he kept asking me, he's like, "Dude, where's Jalen Rager?" And in the first half, you just didn't hear him because I think Devonta Smith was kind of dominating the headlines of the game. And then the second half came, and instead of it was great because obviously like they tried the Quez was working the first couple plays,
Yep.
and then it wasn't working because they started realizing it was going to be a screen.
Yep.
Then Jalen Rager comes in, and they I think tried a couple, and then they hit him with a screen, and you saw what he can do. He kind of danced around with punts, but on offense itself, he did a fantastic job.
Absolutely. And I don't think we've actually gone not in depth, but to give a little bit more of a form to our reactions as this game went on. I just want to briefly mention quickly, I guess, more on quarter by quarter. With that first drive by the Eagles offense, that was big for them. That defense went out there in that first drive by the defense, 14 plays, 72 yards by the Falcons. They bended, but they didn't break.
Right.
It was big. I thought it was big that the Eagles offense came out the next drive and just marched down the field on 7 plays, 75 yards. That's what, an average of almost 10 and a half yards per play in just under 4 minutes. They showed urgency there, and they wanted to get Atlanta off their feet early in the game, and I thought that was big. And then getting that touchdown right before halftime to extend the score to 15-6 was huge, because that middle half of the first quarter or back half of the first quarter and first half of the second quarter, not much was going on. Both offense were kind of just going through routines, but getting that late touchdown there was big, and I think it took a lot out of the Falcons there, especially when there's that penalty where Atlanta, the defensive lineman, lined up over the snapper.
Yeah.
And allowed the Eagles to go for 2.
Yeah. And to build off that, I mean, you score at the end of the half, and then what happens? You get the ball back.
Yeah.
It sets the tone for the second half.
Yep.
And I like that Sirianni recognized that and went, you know what, let's
the touchdown gives you momentum, and that 2-point conversion gives you even more momentum going into the second half. Now, in the second half, they didn't score on that first possession. They actually went 4 plays, 25 yards, punted, and they wouldn't score to their third drive of the second half, but they were just dominating Atlanta's offense at that point. I mean, I'm looking at it here. After the Falcons' second drive of 15 plays, 74 yards, the Falcons on the next couple, in the remaining possessions of the first half, or 2, they got 10 and 4 yards. So the Falcons went 146 yards their first 2 drives, and they got 14 yards their last 2 drives. And then in the second half, they went 4-0, 14, 22, 4, 6, 13. I mean, I didn't realize that while the game was going on, but after those first 2 series, that defense truly, I mean, like what I say, 146 yards or so those first 2 plays, first 2 series. The Falcons ended with 260 yards.
Yeah. I mean great adjustment by Jonathan Gannon. And like you mentioned, as the game went on, the defense kind of shored up. And
it took pressure off the offense, which was huge.
Right.
Because the offense scored in bursts today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. And then like in the middle of the game, they kind of died down. But I think there were a couple times, too, I was so mad. I thought they were going to get a turnover, which ironically, last year we kind of didn't even have the mentality like, oh, they're close to even picking that, or, they have a chance to get one here, because they didn't even look for the ball. Today, I think you saw like Slay had that fantastic breakup on Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, Steven Nelson, I thought almost had it. I think he was kind of expecting the guy to catch the ball instead. But I mean, there are a couple where I was like, oh my, like that's, maybe a couple inches from being an easy pick.
Absolutely. And I think in terms of, because there truly wasn't much action for most of the game. The Eagles really only had 4 or 5 drives there where they did much. And I'm not going to take a big deal about that. Like, you'd like to see them, because there was times where they were not moving the ball much. But overall, I think you can't complain about the Eagles' offense or defense at all today. They went out there against what seems like a bad Falcons team and took care of business. I mean, we said it a million times, they made adjustments early on in this game, and the Falcons seemed to not make any adjustments. And Often in football, the team who makes the better adjustments wins the game. And home run by the Eagles coaching
Yeah.
staff today.
Yeah, and I think like in 2017, Doug was like that, where something didn't work in the first half, and he would adapt to it, and
Yeah,
then whatever wasn't working, he went a different route,
yeah,
so they could move the ball. And then in 2018, you saw less of it. In 2019, same thing, and I guess last year too, you didn't really, you just like as his tenure here went on, you didn't see the adaptability, and that's what I loved seeing today. Is just you were Sirianni and Gannon adapted to the game today.
yes. And we've briefly mentioned this guy a couple times, but I think he deserves some more recognition for his play day. Hurts. I mean, he was
Yeah,
effective and efficient through the air. 27 for 35. That's what, like a 70 some percent completion percentage. Yeah.
that is 77%.
I mean, I would take a 77% day out of Jalen Hurts every
What was
single.
Carson? Was Carson 60 for
Uh,
us?
Carson was around 60%
Right.
for the most part. And I'm looking at Jalen Hurts stats from last year. And now you're not going to get this out of Jalen Hurts every week, but last year he completed 35% against Washington, 53% against Dallas, 54% against Arizona, 56% against New Orleans, 41% against Green Bay.
Yeah.
He just
I
looked
mean,
confident today.
yeah. That was the biggest thing I noticed with Jalen too, was he was poised, like when he had the ball, he wasn't panicking. Like even when there was pressure in his face, he rolled out and he got rid of the ball. He didn't like when we see Carson. I think I switched to red zone a couple times when there was a commercial break and they would be on Carson, and it looked like usual Carson. The second there's a guy there, it's like this backyard football where you're scrambling around just trying to not get touched.
Yeah,
And Jalen looked more smooth than Carson did.
absolutely did. Um,
Do you think they should have taken more shots down the field?
I would have liked to see it, but again, what we saw last year with Jalen was that's not Jalen's strength.
No, it's not. But I mean, part of me kind of, a team's going to start playing up if you don't
Yeah,
take those
I
shots.
wonder if potentially there were shots there for Jalen to take, but
Hmm.
there's just guys getting open a little bit closer. And talking about Jalen, there was only one throw today by Jalen that I was like, damn, I wish he would have made a little bit of better throw there. And that was that Ertz play, which
Hmm.
on replay Ertz didn't catch. But
Oh
that's
my God, yeah.
because Jalen kind of underthrew him by a couple of yards. If Jalen puts a little, and I don't think it was Jalen having a weak arm. I think Jalen just didn't.
I think you just missed it.
It just missed it a little bit, and as he gets more time, he'll learn that he just needs to trust himself there. He didn't want to overthrow Ertz, I guess, but he underthrew
Yeah.
Ertz. But if Ertz he catches, if he throws that in front of Ertz may take it to the house. But
Yeah, well, no, in Ertz, he won't. If
he'll
there's a
get.
defender, he'll
There
just
was a
run out of
defender
bounds.
about
Yeah.
5 yards away coming across, but
Yeah. So yeah, that was the one play where I said he's got to put it on him. Like
yeah,
you don't even need to throw it like and lead him. You just got to get it to him,
yeah,
and he can, like you said, it could have been a house call, but it most likely was, to the 20-yard line.
absolutely. Um, any other players you want to talk about specifically today,
Um,
or do you want to hand out grades?
yeah, we can hand out grades. I mean, Dallas Goddard, it seemed kind of quiet for him, but I think I'm pretty sure he had a decent game, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been like 3 for 60 or 3 for 50 or something, but
He had a let's see, oh,
he had 4 for 42 and a
yeah,
touchdown.
yeah. You can't complain
With-
with that.
No,
Can't complain about that at all. All right, yeah. Let's hand out grades here then. Let's start with. Do you want to do? Let's do it by offense, defense, special teams,
yeah,
and then we'll hand out individual grades to a couple players, and we'll do coaching staff. So, I guess let's start with the coaching staff here first. Uh, let's start with Sirianni. What would you give Nick Sirianni here in his first game as Eagles head coach?
Uh, I don't want to go too crazy, but I probably give him like a B plus or so. I mean, like I mentioned, I really like the play calling. Some of the fourth down decisions, whether it was the play call or going for it, like I think the one fourth down, I think he should have kicked the field goal
Yeah.
instead of going for it. That's a rookie head coach thing. I think he wanted to be aggressive, which I don't blame him or mind it, but I'll go a B plus. I think it was a very solid day for Sirianni.
Yeah, I'll give just because I'm a little in the moment. I'll give him an A minus
Hmm.
because I mean, for a time, first game as head coach, he really didn't make any big. I mean, he time managed well,
Yeah, yeah, he did.
and
I think
what I
did he have
thought,
two timeouts near the end of the first half?
I
Like
believe
at
so.
one, and it
And
was like late.
yeah, and thinking back to one play that I thought was kind of good was the Eagles in that first series. They were driving down the field, and Jalen Hurts took a delay game. A lot of
Hmm.
coaches would have stormed down the sideline
Yeah,
and
why
took a
are you
timeout.
down? Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
took a timeout there. And that wastes time out, but he trusted his offense there, I think, to get the job done. I know it's a 5 yard loss, but he trusted his guys. He saw what they were doing, and he didn't waste a timeout there. And those timeouts could come
yeah.
back in later in games and games that are closer and be huge. So I'll give him an A minus. Offense quarter Shane Steichen. Um, am I pronouncing that right? Steichen.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I thought is he calling plays or is Sirianni calling plays? I
So
forget.
Sirianni is calling plays
Okay.
to Steichen, who is calling them to Jalen Hurts,
Okay.
allegedly.
But at the end of the day, Steichen's the guy who's probably coming up with most of the offensive
The
game plan
scheme, yeah.
and the scheme.
Him and Pat, their offensive, their passing game
Oh,
coordinator,
Kevin Patullo.
Kevin Patullo. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought the offensive philosophy today was solid, and that's a lot. That's a lot of credit to Steichen and Patullo. So I'll give them a B plus today. There are some things where I would like to see some uh, little fixes here and there, like the game well play. Um, Maybe just designing some more plays uh, to get the ball to like Sanders or Gainwell in open field. We didn't see any real routes today, did we?
no, that was the one thing. Yeah, that would have been nice, or even Gainwell or Miles in the slot and kind of
Yeah.
doing either like a deep route or something. But
We
um,
did see quite a bit of two tight ends though. Goddard
yeah,
and there was even once where Goddard, Ertz, and Stoll were all on the field at the same time.
yeah, and I think Zach Ertz did leave the game
He did.
briefly. I don't know if he came back. I
He
don't
did. He
remember.
did come back. He did come back.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, for a second, I kind of figured he was going to be fine. It didn't look or seem like anything was really that wrong. But yeah, I'll probably go B plus. Like you said, I think there's obviously a lot of positives, but um, like the fourth down play calls or designs, Gainwell in there kind of wish they didn't give it to him.
Yeah. All
But
right.
overall, I think the offense had a very good game.
Defensively, Jonathan Gannon. What did you think about Gannon? I mean, first two drives, you're watching that and you look back at what they did in the preseason and you're thinking,
Mhm.
oh Lord, this defense is gonna be bad. They're getting eaten up on the ground. They're giving up easy plays in the passing game. But then the adjustments came, and I read off those drives. After those first two drives of what 140 some total yards, they
Yeah, they
had
had
260.
Yeah, Rube, I believe at one point tweeted they had like after the first half they had like you said, 100 and some yards, and then they ended with they only had like 40 more yards or something,
Yeah,
which that's incredible. I mean, the adaptation that he had was, I mean, that's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Jim Schwartz, we got a Super Bowl with him, thank God, but he didn't adapt like that last year or the year before. He
No.
kind of just went, this is how my defense runs, whatever. I mean, there were multiple third and, 15s and third and 20s in this game. And I think they either stopped them or it wasn't even close. Like there might have been a couple close third and 15s, but I mean, Jim Schwartz's, they just find this soft spot in that zone and then that's it.
Didn't have to see any sticks defense today.
No,
That
no,
was
they were
great.
very aggressive.
They were.
Even for third and 15, that team was very aggressive on the ball.
They were. There was two third downs where the third down to Kyle Pitts where they gave up almost a first down. That was a little rough. And then they had 3rd and 9 where Mike Davis got a first down, I think. But you know who on the Falcons had a big game today, and I couldn't understand why they couldn't stop him.
Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, like it's the most random dude because outside of returning kicks and punts, the dude hasn't really provided much in his NFL career. And then the Eagles, the one guy the Eagles couldn't stop today. But Gannon, give me a B plus. I'm gonna penalize them a little bit for those first 2 drives, but besides that,
And the
terrific.
sloppiness, too.
A little sloppy, yeah, but terrific adjustments out of him. Terrific adjustments. And then we don't have. I mean, I don't think we have to give a.
Special teams, I guess I'll just real quick a thought on punt.
Who
Number
is
one,
the special teams coordinator?
don't
Michael
know.
Clay. Michael Clay.
Okay. Number one, Sipos pinned twice.
He was terrific.
And they were booming kicks too, so that was nice to see. I know it's a punter, but hey, why not get?
If there's
excited for a
one
punter?
thing Howie's good at finding, it's punters. I mean,
it's Australian rule punters.
Sipos was great today, and that's after they gave up. They walked away from Cameron Johnston, who I think is amongst like the best kickers in NFL or punters in NFL history in terms of yards per punt. Sipos was great today, though. That was if he can punt well throughout the season, that's going to be a big boost to them. Jalen Rager, though, not very good in punt returns today.
No,
Didn't feel like he had a plan.
He kind of it felt like he was trying to do too much.
Yeah.
Like he would back up and then try to go one side, then he'd go the other. Dude, just if there's something there, hit the hole.
Or just fair catch it.
Right, or just fair catch it. There were a couple times I thought he was trying to do too much, and I appreciate that because I think he knows he can take it to the house. We saw it last year, but I mean, I would have liked to kind of see him not try. It's a punt. All we need you to do. Greg Ward is a safe guy. I get it. And Jalen wants to make something out of it, but
yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. Special teams as a whole today, I'll give it a B. It's a B.
Yeah,
just because we couldn't see much.
I was gonna say you didn't see the kickoff team because they only kicked 2 field goals.
So I mean, it's a B because you didn't see much. The good news is Elliott did what he had to do today. 1 for 1 on field goal attempts, 43 yards, 3 for 3 in extra points. Sipos did very well. Rager was meh in punt returns. Watkins had 2 returns for 40 yards. It's a B plus just because I with that little of work, I had to penalize a little bit more for the punt returns than I normally would. But I mean B plus. But no real complaints there. Minus Rager.
I don't really have any. Right, I don't really have anything. I mean, special teams. One, like I said, they didn't really get to do anything, and I mean, I just think as an overall first impression for this team, I think he set the tone very well. We got to cut the turnovers, but other than that, I think it was a very good game for Sirianni and this Eagles team.
Yeah. Now for the defense players as a whole, not counting What, not counting Gannon's game plan in here. I thought the players in terms of execution today started out rough. Tackling was rough, but overall solid. I'm gonna give them a. We'll go B plus because
Yeah,
the players executed the adjustments that were needed.
when you hold Calvin Ridley to 50 yards,
Yeah,
and I know Julio's not on the team anymore, and it was, I mean, thrown in our face. Oh, Kyle Pitts, Kyle Pitts. I mean, Kyle Pitts did nothing. He
yeah,
did nothing.
yeah,
Mike Davis did just as much in the passing game. It felt like
yeah.
him and Hayden Hurst. So I got to give him a B, maybe a B plus as well. It was a very solid, like you said, after the initial start and the bad tackling. I think we kind of composed themselves, and I mean they just totally shut down this Falcons offense.
They absolutely did. Offense. Well, I got to give that offense. I'll go A minus because there was drives of
Yeah,
nothing, but for the most part, I have not felt that confident about an Eagles offense as I was as I feel now. I feel
yeah. I
confident
mean,
this.
here's
They're not going to blow anybody. They're not going to blow. Well, they just blew somebody out. What's the correct word? And I'm looking for. They're not going to. They're not going to do this every week. They're not going to put up 30 points a game. They're going to have bad weeks, but it felt like this offense had a direction. It felt like they had a game plan today,
yeah.
and it wasn't changing. I mean, you're going to change on the fly, but it felt like they knew what they really wanted to do, and as the game went to plan, they just executed their game plan.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It was very impressive to see this offense, and it just felt new. Like I was saying to my grandfather and my dad when I watched this game. I didn't know what they were going to call. I mean, they called a couple of the same screens, but for the most part, like you mentioned in the very beginning, the Eagles offense, like guys were open,
Yeah.
open. Um, that's on Sirianni. That's on the receivers themselves, and you didn't see that with Doug. Doug ran the same plays over and over again, and I think it was reported like teams started to know what the Eagles were going to run.
Yeah, I know the word I was looking for today's game by the Eagles offense.
Go ahead.
Systematic. It was
Yes,
systematic.
yes. They were efficient, like you mentioned. When Jalen Hurts is 77% or so for throwing the ball, that's a great
Great,
game
great
for.
day. Great day. And that's a credit to Jalen, but also credit to that offense.
Hmm.
The offense in general, the offensive coaching staff, everybody involved. That's a credit to everybody involved. I don't expect that out of Jalen every week, but if Jalen can do Carson numbers or better, I'd be happy. All right, let's go individual then for the key players. Jalen Hurts, 27 for 35, 264, 3 touchdowns, plus 62 yards on the ground. The only thing that he didn't get today was a rushing touchdown. That hurt
That broke
you.
my heart.
Broke
Broke my heart.
broke. Go
I
ahead.
think I got my no. I was gonna say I think I did the same game parlay, so I got my money back.
No,
But
that's good.
um, yeah, that's a heartbreak. I had a parlay today. It was Eagles money line. Um, it was what was it? Eagles money line. It was Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. Mike Davis over 44 and a half yards, and Devonta Smith over 43 and a half yards.
Yeah,
Everything hit, and I thought maybe they were going to let Jalen run one in, and
but
it
never
just
came to
didn't.
fruition.
No.
But Jalen's great for today. You know what? For your first opening day NFL start, 77% completion, no turnovers. Uh, give
That's
me
my big
give me an
no
A on
turnovers.
Jalen.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to give Jalen an A. I mean, like you mentioned, no turnovers, 3 touchdowns, 77%
Yeah,
completion. And like when it comes to negative plays and positive plays, negative plays being, they loss of yards or a fumble,
yeah,
he didn't have many of those.
he did not.
He did, like you mentioned, he took one sack, one
Yeah,
sack. So it's hard to not give him an A.
absolutely. So we both give Jalen an A there. If we go on Miles Sanders here, Let's see, 15 yards, 15 carries, 74 yards, plus 39 yards in the air on 4 receptions. So that's 19 touches for what was that? 74 plus 39. That's 113 yards.
Yeah,
That's
113
solid.
yards on 19. That's 6 yards
A touch.
a touch. That's
And,
I
and
just when it goes to rushing, that's 4.9 by
and
the
we
way.
said he should be getting 20 touches a game. There's 19 touches.
Hmm.
So
And it was really encouraging too that it was in the passing game as well. I didn't know
yeah,
how much they were going to use him in the passing game, and they trusted him enough. They gave him a couple, and I mean you don't want Miles catching 5, 8, 10 passes. You just want him to catch 3 to 4 like he did.
yeah. So I give Miles probably
I
an
think
A today.
I'm gonna go B plus.
And if
I
you
think
want,
there were a couple of times he tried to bounce it outside and should
that's
have
true.
just went right up the middle. But
And if you want to combine Sanders and Gainwell as the running back group, I mean,
then
30.
it's yeah,
And if you want to put Hurts in that as a running back group, as a run game in total, 31 for 173, 5.6 yards per carry, and a touchdown. And only one of those was for more than 20 yards.
yeah,
So I mean, I'll take that. They were consistent on the ground today. As a whole, you have to give that group a B plus, I think.
yeah. I mean that like we said, and you said systematic. The offense today was systematic.
Yep.
They knew what they wanted to get done, and they executed. And I know that's a big thing for Sirianni is execution. And I mean, geez, did they execute today?
Absolutely did. All right, the wide receivers here, uh, as a group,
I give them a B.
yeah, a B. I would definitely say a B here. They were solid all around. 27 for 264, as we said, for Hertz. Uh,
Nothing crazy, you know.
7 different guys today had receptions. All had multiple receptions. Smith with 6, Rager with 6, Goddard 4, Sanders 4, Ertz 2, Watkins 3, Gainwell 2. Um,
How many drops? I don't know
I don't
if you
have
know
drops in
that
front of me.
because to me it seemed like there really wasn't that many
Maybe
drops.
one. Smith had one drop that I
Yeah,
remember. Uh,
yeah, and that was a tough one because I think he was almost getting hit as
yeah,
he.
it was one of those.
So,
It was a slightly dangerous play, but
mhm.
uh, they didn't
Oh,
drop
so no, they didn't drop. They really didn't drop many passes,
maybe one or two.
and also for all those, he's too small.
Yeah,
Survived the NFL game.
yeah, he
Check that
survived.
off.
He survived. He took some licks.
Yeah,
But another, I think a B. What do you say? A B plus?
yeah. I mean, they didn't do anything really.
You didn't see the only one you saw a nice explosiveness after a catch was Rager on his touchdown.
Sure.
So
And
I
that
like to
kind of
see,
saved his stat line too. But
yeah, I would just like to see a little bit more explosiveness out of Rager, but definitely saved his stat line. That was 23 yards, I think that touchdown. So before that, he was
Mhm.
five. He was 5 for 25 before that,
Yeah.
or 5 for 26. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, B plus on that group. I'd give Smith a solid, probably B plus. Rager was probably about a B minus, just because you'd like to see more explosiveness than 8.2 yards per.
Yeah, I would have. Well, and I felt like they didn't really like. He's one of those guys you kind of have to take at least one shot down the field with him.
Yeah, all 6 targets to Rager though today were caught.
Hmm. Now, the interesting part would be how close to the line of scrimmage they were. I
Yeah,
think a lot of them, kind of like Debo, where a lot of them are around the line of scrimmage. To
he
me,
had
it
a
kind of
big
felt
game
like
today,
that's the
Debo
case.
Samuel.
Started him in a fantasy league. Started him. Oh my
That's
goodness,
all
I was
right.
excited.
I benched Adam Thielen today.
Oh,
And to my credit, it's a league where I'm really deep at wide receiver, but
yeah.
yeah, it was tough to know that many people outperformed Thielen today. Um,
No.
yeah, Rager, I said BB minus. Goddard kind of disappeared after a while. He probably gets about a B. Ertz I don't think you can grade Ertz. I don't think you can really grade
No.
Watkins.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
offensive line,
Uh,
A minus, B
I
plus.
don't even.
Depends on how. It depends on penalty.
I
What do you
the
penalize for
penalties.
penalties?
Yeah, I think because of there were just so many penalties.
Yeah,
It, I'd go probably B minus. I know they only allowed one sack, but I mean, most of the offensive line is veterans,
yeah,
minus Jordan Mailata. So for those guys to be getting, especially like a guy like Lane Johnson, those guys should know better.
absolutely. And then that takes us to defense. Um, we won't hand out any individual grades on defensive players, but
No, go position group.
yeah, position group, defensive line.
I will say they pressured, and I hate the stat of pressures,
Yeah,
but I mean they pressured Matt Ryan a lot.
yeah,
You would have liked to see it generate more sacks because I think the one Fletcher blew it up, and I think he blew it up too well to the point where he went past
yeah,
Matt Ryan.
yeah.
But I mean Javon Hargrave had 2 sacks.
Yeah, in fourth quarter after having all of one last year, I think.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and the other thing on the offensive line quickly is that I will say is they only had one quarterback. They only allowed one quarterback hit today,
Hmm.
so that's big. But defensive line, I'll probably give the defensive line a probably a B plus as well. I mean,
Yeah.
only 124 yards allowed on the ground, 4.8 average. So
Recovered a fumble.
recovered a fumble. They got pressure, like you said, on Ryan pretty consistently. Uh, I mean, they had 9 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
That's big. Um, and yeah, I saw, or the Eagles defense, I should say, had 9 quarterback hits. 3 of them came from Ridgeway, 3 from Hargrave. If you get that production out of your DTs the whole season, you're
Especially your third or fourth defensive tackle.
yeah. Linebackers, I didn't hear any of their names a lot today, so they're getting an A for me. That's the thing with that's the kind of the thing with like outside defensive linemen.
Yeah,
If you aren't like defensive linemen, you want to hear their name. But if
yeah,
you're not hearing the name of linebackers or
yeah.
cornerbacks consistently, unless they're making tackles, that's big. I didn't really. I mean, did any one of them really have any big bad
I
plays
think that
today?
no, I think Alex Singleton, the one catch he was there with Slay,
Yeah,
which Slay made a really good tackle. Um, but I didn't really hear their names either. I did, by the way, the one play that sticks to me was Brandon Graham absolutely stuffing Mike
yeah,
Davis on that one.
yeah.
I mean, Mike Davis stood no chance. But
He
yeah,
really, that was a beautiful play.
yeah, there wasn't
He
much. I
crushed
mean,
Davis.
if anything was over the middle, it was like kind of deep over the middle, which I mean, if a team's playing zone,
Yeah,
that's going to beat it every time. So I'll give it a B plus. I don't think I think like if you saw Alex Singleton with a sack or a fumble or something, I'd
sure,
go an A.
sure. Secondary, I think it's hard not to give an A. They kept that offensive pass game really under wraps for most of the game, for almost the entirety of the game. A lot. I mean, Ryan was kept under
Yeah,
80 passing yards until the fourth quarter. I mean, 100 passing yards until the fourth quarter, I think, or something like that.
yeah. I mean they swarmed the ball. I mean you didn't like you said. Devontae had 9 tackles, one
Yeah,
for a loss. Um, Darius Slay had a couple great pass breakups, and Steven Nelson at the end of the game had a great pass breakup, and he also at the end of the first half, or it was the first quarter, the one to Mike Davis, I thought he might have a shot at picking, but he, I mean, he went for the tackle. He just was making sure that the guy wasn't going in, and I think he just in general, the secondary had a great game, and that's with Marcus Epps going out
yeah.
immediately in the game.
Who led the Eagles last year in interceptions?
Don't say that. That's so upsetting.
But I thought secondary was solid. Um, shout out to Avante Maddox who had a nice game. Eric Wilson
Yeah,
had a
he
nice
did.
game.
And Avante had a tough task. I know I mentioned it briefly earlier, but I mean, most likely he was on Kyle Pitts.
Yep. Yeah, so I think and other players worth mentioning in terms of solid games. Hargrave, like we said, 2 sacks. Nelson, 6 tackles. Sweat had 6 tackles. Um, Anthony Harris was solid.
Yeah.
Um,
It was a good
Barnett,
showing. No, and I know the Falcons aren't that good of a team, but we didn't know what to expect coming in, and
no,
it was a
it,
very good outing.
and what was great was by midway through, after they scored that second touchdown in the first half, to go 15-6, I felt confident that they were going to win this game. And third quarter, I think they made it 22-6 in third quarter, and you're like, all right. I didn't feel like it was going to be a close game at any point after the first half,
Yeah,
and that was great. So I think that's all with the Eagles. Uh,
yeah.
I guess some quick thoughts on the other games around the league, and then we'll wrap this up. So currently live, the Browns lead the Chiefs 22-10. That game's going into halftime.
Wow.
Uh, Baker is
Eddie,
11 for 13, 143. Chubb has 2 touchdowns.
jeez. And I thought Chubb wouldn't do anything this week, to be honest.
Chiefs just have 6 carries for 14 yards. Tyreek Hill has 96 yards, but
Yeah, I have Travis Kelsey on the team, and he's not. I mean, he's fine, but 5 for 40 or
yeah.
whatever,
Uh,
3 for 45.
yeah, Patriots up 10-7. That game is going into halftime. Mac Jones 14 for 19, 133 and a touchdown. Damian Harris 11 carries, 72 yards. Hey,
Yeah.
here's one. Nelson Aguilar 4 receptions, 51 yards, 1 touchdown. He got big money this
Oh,
offseason.
I know. I'm gonna hear it from my friends that he's insane. Except he's not because we have Devontae, and I don't care.
Another one of a little bit of a shocker here. Saints up 17-3 early in the second half. Aaron Rodgers 7 for 12, 69 yards. Jameis Winston 9 for 12, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns.
9 for 12 for 60. That's such an upsetting stat line.
Yeah, so I mean that was a little bit of a
Whatever
shock.
gets it done. Whatever gets it done, though, right?
Aaron Jones getting nothing today. AJ Dillon is the leading rusher. Aaron Jones 3 carries for 3 yards. Aaron Jones
Stop.
2 carries for 12 yards.
I have him in fantasy.
I I have
Stop.
I have Aaron Jones in fantasy too. I'm not happy about that one. At halftime, Broncos lead the Giants 10-7. Teddy Bridgewater 19 for 22, 171 and a touchdown. Daniel Jones 9 for 12, 111 and a touchdown. Saquon just 4 carries, 10 yards.
Yeah.
No, nobody's running the ball well today.
No, and I don't know if it has to do with the running backs, not getting work. I know Saquon, he's coming off the ACL tear, but
Yeah, I heard this morning that he wasn't going to come back until I think Giants play Thursday night this week.
oh no.
But he wasn't going to come back till Thursday night, and they
Well,
pushed him up. Um, Steelers beat the Bills 23-16. That's a little bit of. I had the Bills winning that one. I think we both had the Bills winning that one. Or did you pick the Steelers?
I I might have had
I
this.
posted them on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm going to look right now because I might have got that. Where is it? I had the
You had Bills.
Bills. Crap.
Yeah, we both got that wrong. Yeah, Steelers beat the Bills there. Looking at this one, play-by-play wise, 17 fourth quarter points by the Steelers, 23 total in the second half. So they were down 10 nothing going into halftime. Outscored Bills 23 nothing in the second half to win.
We're not going to talk about Jacksonville losing, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because you and I both got that wrong.
That was I thought Houston. I mean, we all thought Houston was that bad, and
Maybe the Jags are that bad.
perhaps it was. I think it's a welcome to the NFL moment for Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer. Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't see much of this game. 28 for 51, 332, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for Trevor Lawrence.
I do think part of it is that offensive line's horrendous, but
Yeah. James Robinson, who everybody thought was going to have a big day, 5 carries, 25 yards.
That's it. 5 carries.
Yeah. Uh, Problem with the Jags is you look at that number of 50 some passing attempts. They were down so big early in this game that they had to pass the ball the majority of the game.
True. True.
Um, Growing pains there. Other games, Bengals over the Vikings 27-24. Not a great start for Mike Zimmer there. He's a guy who's on the hot seat, I think, this year if they don't win. Um,
Yeah. I
but big
mean,
win for Zach Taylor.
they've always been close. Or Zach Wilson.
No,
Or Zach. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the
Sorry, I was
Bengals
thinking.
coach. Yeah,
Um, I mean, Jamar Chase had a good game. Everyone thought Jamar Chase was gonna kind of be crap,
yeah.
but he had five, I think, 4 for 90 or 5 for 100 and some, and a touchdown. So good
Five
for
for
him.
101 and a touchdown. Yeah, yeah. After he's been dropping balls the whole time. Joe Mixon had a big game too, 29 for 127, and the Bengals defense kept Cook to 20, 61 and a touchdown. Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins actually had a solid game, but Joe Burrow 20 of 27, 261, two DDs, but 5 sacks. I mean, they
yeah,
have to learn to protect him. Um,
mm,
49ers were up big at one point, 31-10. They went 41-33.
yeah. I can't believe that that game went to overtime, didn't it?
No, I think it just escaped going to
Oh,
overtime.
okay, okay,
Uh, Bengals Vikings went to overtime. Uh,
yeah.
Trey Lance did throw his first touchdown in this game in the first quarter, but Garoppolo got the start, played the majority of it. Raheem
Dude,
Mostert,
that was the most random touchdown pass, by the way.
this
Just randomly put Trey Lance in.
and this is actually worth talking about because this is the Eagles' opponent next week in the 49ers. Raheem Mostert went out with a knee injury in this game, did not return. Rookie Elijah Mitchell came in, 19 carries, 104 yards,
Yeah,
and a
why
touchdown.
didn't Trey Sermon? Does anyone know why Trey Sermon didn't play?
I did not. I'll look it up in a second.
Because he was
He was
inactive, but they
inactive,
didn't
yeah.
say it was an injury.
Debo Samuel, 9 receptions, 189 yards, and a
Love to
touchdown.
see it. Love to see it.
Brandon Ayuk, no receptions today. Greg Kittle, 4 receptions, 78 yards.
Yeah.
But gonna be worth watching what Mostert is for this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Car- Cardinals dominated the Titans 38-13.
Oh my God, I know. I have Ryan Tannehill on a fantasy team, and let me tell you, that was upsetting. He did score that rushing touchdown though, but
He
I
did.
mean, Kyler Murray. Oh my God.
Uh, Seahawks over the Colts 28-16. This is actually the Colts' eighth straight loss to start the season.
And of course, Carson Wentz can't beat the Seahawks apparently,
Of course.
but we are one of. I believe he needs to play 75% of the snaps, which is
Yep.
about 13 games. So we are one of 13 complete.
25 for 38, 251, and two touchdowns for Carson, including 23 yards on the ground. He did have one fumble, but solid.
Shocker, shocker.
Um,
Anything else?
yeah, almost done here. Chargers over Washington 2016. Worth noting, Ryan Fitzpatrick left this game with a hip injury, did not return. Taylor Henneke took over. Henneke was solid, 11-15, 122, and a touchdown. Antonio Gibson, 20 for 90. And Chargers, Herbert had a solid but not great day. Eckler didn't get much done.
Yeah,
Keenan
he had
Allen
that
almost
touchdown early, which saved it.
Mike Williams had a touchdown for all you fantasy Mike Williams owners. And then Panthers beat the Jets 19-14. Zach Wilson in his first career start, 20 for 37, two touchdowns, and an interception. Panthers, Darnold was solid, 24-35, 279, and a touchdown. McCaffrey had 98 yards.
That's it.
Yep,
Only 98. That's
98.
upsetting. Well,
He
I
did.
guess Sam Darnold
He
stole a
had
rushing
98
touchdown.
yards on the ground, 89 through the air, so 170 yards on the day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds about right.
But yeah, so that was all the NFL scores, and of course on Thursday night, the Bucks beat the Cowboys 31-29, and then tomorrow the Raiders take on the Ravens at home. And I guess early week 2 odds here. I just saw it earlier. Um, where'd it go? Uh, right now, ESPN's Pick Center says the spread is 3.5 in favor of
So
San Francisco.
they don't like us. We don't care. How about that?
It's a great way to put it. Um, yeah, so I think that does it for this Eagles reaction
Post
show.
game live. Yeah.
Any quick thoughts? I mean, we didn't really get to talk or see any quotes from Sirianni today or anything like that. But any thoughts as I quickly see if he said anything?
No, not really. I just, I think we've hit it all. I know we'll have a preview, probably a preview episode for the Eagles 49ers game, which we can talk about what Sirianni said if we can't find it. Also, what we think they're going to do, especially because I think this is a more complete receiving core
It is.
in the 49ers, and we finally will go against Jimmy G. So,
Yeah, Jimmy G. I mean, it felt like we've been supposed to face him a ton, and we have yet to face him. And last year he was injured, and that was who is the quarterback for that game?
it was Nick Mullins,
That's right.
Eagles legend.
That's right. And the Eagles have had the 49ers number the last few years, if I remember correctly, as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't see anything. I can't find anything right now on
Okay.
what Sirianni had to say.
Yeah.
Important here. 49ers are worried that cornerback Jason Verrett suffered a torn ACL.
Well, Godspeed. Hope he, full recovery. But
I guess the other one we'll talk about during the week, but another quick thought here. Any thoughts on Mailata's big extension?
I mean, I think you tweeted from our Twitter. It does, I think, tell you a lot about how they feel about Dillard.
Yep.
I mean, he had a solid game today from what I saw. He didn't. It didn't seem like Jalen was under pressure that much from his side. I mean, I'd probably have to go back and look. It'll be interesting though because Nick Bosa is on this next team, and I doubt they put him over Lane Johnson.
Yeah, I doubt that as well. And if they do, we know how Lane does against top end defensive linemen.
Yeah.
And not to get our hopes up, but here's a fun stat, courtesy of pulling up just so I get it correct here. Need to give out credit. Kevin Cole of Pro Football Focus. So for those non-PFF fans, don't listen. But Hurts didn't push the ball down the field much today with an average DOT under 4 yards, but it produced a completion percentage more than 5% over expectation. Hurts' 0.35 EPA per play is roughly the same as MVP Aaron Rodgers' average last season.
There you go.
So don't worry about that clickbait if you're not a PFF fan, because that's what I feel like half of PFF stats are.
Mm-hmm.
I thought overall, Eagles win. Go Birds.
Yeah.
That's
Go Birds.
So yeah, well, thanks everybody for tuning in, listening. We'll make this probably in a podcast form for anybody who hasn't listened to this live stream, and we'll talk to you guys sometime midweek, recapping the Eagles, or not recapping, but previewing Eagles Week 2 matchup against San Francisco. We will not have a live stream following next week's game. I will not be home where I'm able to do it, but we will return to live stream and post-game reactions starting Week 3, and then we'll go from there, I guess. Austin.
Yeah, sounds good.
I don't want to promise Week 3 is week 3. Week 3 is a Monday night game. We may do a post-game reaction Week 3.
Yeah.
I have to wake up early during the week, so maybe not. But we'll have some type of post-game reaction starting Week 3. But we'll have a normal podcast following Week 2. But yeah, thanks everybody for listening, watching, tuning in. Appreciate it. Eagles win 32-6, and we'll play San Francisco next week at home in the home opener. Go Birds.
Go Birds.